When he was around 12 or 14, Israel began learning about ropes and knots and building rafts and rope bridges. He spent a lot of time alone in the woods. Sometimes he sat up in trees for hours. He was learning how to stalk prey by catching the scent of animals and camouflaging himself. When Israel was 14 years old, he was in the woods hanging out with a friend of his, and he ended up killing an animal for fun, and it really traumatized the friend that he was hanging out with.
There was one kid that I grew up with, and we used to break in houses together and mostly like kid stuff. And but then there was a time when I think I shot something. I think it was a dog or a cat or something, and that was too much for him. He couldn't handle it. And so after that, I wouldn't do anything illegal, I guess you could say, with him.
Israel Keyes also told investigators a story about killing a family pet, and this occurred not long after the incident that he had in the woods with his friend. This story details Israel killing a cat in a very brutal way.
When I was 14, there were some friends staying with us, and there was a cat of ours that was always getting into the trash, and it was my sister's cat. And I told her at the time, I was like, if that cat gets into the trash again, I'm gonna kill it. And then there was this kid and some of his, I think maybe one of my sisters and one of his sisters, we all went up into the woods, and I had the cat with me, and took a piece of parachute cord and tied it to this tree, and parachute cord was about 10 feet long, and I had a .22 revolver with me, and I shot it in the stomach, and it ran around and around the tree, and then like crashed into the tree, and then started vomiting. And as soon as that, like, for me, I didn't really react. I mean, I actually kind of laughed a little, I think, because of the way it was running around the tree. But then I looked over at everybody else, and the kid who was about my age was with me. He was throwing up. Like, he was like really, I don't know, traumatized, I guess you would say. He told his dad about it, and then of course his dad talked to my parents about it, and that was pretty much the last time anybody went in the woods with me. I learned my lesson.
He was not able to connect with people, and he was losing friends because of the things he was doing. In 1994, when Israel was 16, he built himself his own cabin on his parents' property, and he built this prior to taking any construction work as a teenager. According to a friend, he learned how to build it by reading books on the topic. His parents allowed him to stay in the cabin, quote, because they had so many children, but she, his mom, had concerns that he spent too much time in the cabin alone. This is the same year that his older sister America got married to a guy named Stephen Todd Wolfe, and that's where this picture was taken. This is one of the rare photos of the Keyes family. At the time, only 8 of the 10 Keyes children had been born. The following year, Ezra would be born, and then shortly after that, the last child would join the Keyes clan, Jubilee. The Keyes obviously had a very big family, and it was almost like a cult in and of itself. Heidi even referred to their children as assets in the sense that they were like a workforce. It was set up very traditionally. The first time Israel Keyes was arrested, he was 16 years old. He had gone down the mountain into Coville to shoplift something and ended up getting caught. He was given some community service, but that was essentially it. Keyes actually described what it was like the first time he robbed a store. It's unclear if this incident is the same as the shoplifting incident, but it is described as him robbing a store, so seemingly a different incident altogether. But he said that this occurred in Washington during his teenage years. He said that he was amazed by how terrified the woman behind the counter became when she saw him, and that she actually reminded him of his mother.
Well, armed robberies. Those days, that's better. especially if it's like a small town. Like, remember the first one I did, I was freaked out, and but then once I got in there and actually was doing it, I remember one of the ladies at the counter, she was about the same age as my mom, and just the look on her face, I was like, I still think about that.
She couldn't believe it.
Not just that, but she was just terrified, you know. It's like, and I hadn't really done anything. It wasn't even like it wasn't that crazy of a robbery. It was just.
Where was that at?
That was a long time ago.
Keyes was also caught vandalizing homes with a friend of his, and apparently he was able to convince his then girlfriend that, quote, he was ashamed, and told her his father helped Keyes to atone by working with him to fix the damage and pay back the homeowners.